Hello, everyone, and welcome in to the place where we take a break from Elden Ring, but only for a brief few seconds, just to talk about Flesh and Blood. Joining me today, we have Keela, we have Ben, we have myself, the 86, and we have a tarnished voice with us somewhere,
Hello.
somewhere off in the distance. And
You
it's
should have
him.
just done 2 fingers. The fingers.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
They quiver. They quiver.
Oh dear. Today we're just going to take another quick break from our piloting series. That should be back next week. But we are going to talk about organized play, or what some people might call OP, and just what it is, how to get involved, and where to kick off. And I know some of us have started and played very many different places. What are some places you guys have played?
Primarily, it's just been Armory Events at a local game store or LGS, but I have played at a Road to Nationals, a Calling, and a Skirmish.
I've done Armory, Skirmish, and Calling. Haven't got to touch Road to Nationals or Proquest yet.
See, Armories, Skirmish, 2 Callings, Pro Tour, and Road to Nationals. I think that's it.
Proquest, not Pro Tour.
Yeah, whatever. Same thing, right?
There's a large difference.
Wow, he got an invite and he didn't even attend the Proquest.
Yeah, seriously.
Buddy of ours actually got an invite but couldn't attend due to work issues.
It's good for more than a year, so like he can still go to a Pro Tour this season or next even.
Still don't know if he'd be able to.
Yeah, no, the person is insanely busy, like 75 hours of work a week.
Yeah.
But
When you work in a hospital, life be busy and you be sleepy.
I agree. I'm just gonna also say I've done Skirmish, Armory, ProQuest, Calling. Just to kind of throw my 2 cents in there. But this website is right on the Flesh and Blood, fabtcg.com. And right at the top, there's this little thing that says events, and you can go to organized play underneath that and pull up this thing, and it kind of gives a layout of what everything is. So this is a good way to get involved. Under the events tab, there's also an event locator where you can find things that are close to you, nearby, and you can also see deck lists. So that's pretty happening, as the kids say. Right?
When I went to Florida, Tales of Aria was just releasing, and I used the events locator to see if there were any game stores near where we were vacationing. Unfortunately, there weren't, because we were like in a retirement area where a bunch of just old people went, so there was no card shops for me to play.
Big oof.
My deck and everything.
aim for
I was ready.
100% always ready to throw down cardboard.
Always stay strapped.
Oh, yeah.
It is helpful,
Right.
like, going out of town or just moving, like, you would also be surprised if there wasn't something within an hour of where you were at. There's so many events I've seen online and going to every place. I mean, granted, in Florida, I don't know where you were at specifically or how far away the closest one was, but
Oh, it was far.
it was far.
Where we were at, we were on the Gulf side, so we weren't really near the major coasts or like center state. But the closest thing that I could find was like a 3-hour drive, and that's just
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's exactly what it was. It was heading more center, and I was like, I'm not gonna do that while on vacation. I'm just gonna sit on the beach.
Gotcha. That's sad. Most of you hopefully will have something nearby, and what we're gonna do today is go over this fancy graph and talk about what they are. So we'll start at the bottom and work our way up, and I would kind of think of it like a pyramid. So does anyone know what Play Anywhere is?
it's kind of the I want my gem ID associated with this match, but I'm not doing this for any like points or anything like that. And it also allows for like webcam play.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the almost like looking for group or LFG of like the old days for Fab, from what I understand of it.
So we're gonna move on from that. The other thing with Play Anywhere, and it says right on it, so a lot of these explain what they are to an extent, but you can use the OP software from Flesh and Blood. You don't have to use Challenge or any other bracket software. Some people like Tabletop TO, but you can use this and not have to worry about any other software. They will set that up. We can move next up the chain to On Demand. Ben, do you want to tell us about On Demand events?
To my understanding, on-demand events are just any events that your LGS wants to host. Little mini constructed tournaments, drafts, just things that don't fit in a regular schedule.
Yeah, typically stuff like, oh, we're doing a win a box tournament, but it's something the store's just doing themselves. Like they are giving the prize support instead of LSS sending them
Sure.
supplies to host a tournament. It's more of like, hey, are the local players interested in doing this? We'll do it if you want to, and we'll do it at this time this day. How's that sound? And they typically will also like figure out. This is just personal experience working in an LGS. We tried to find the day best suited for the most people to be able to come out and play. But yeah, that's typically it's the LGS's your local game store is supplying the prize support instead of being certified LSS stuff.
Moving on up the ladder, talking about Armory events. And Armories are really neat because that is where LSS starts to sponsor everything, and they provide price support. And I don't know if sponsor is the right word, but they do give price support. And it's a lot. There's most places get 2 mats for the month. Some places get more. And usually they have a people's champion type deal. So it's not necessarily like, oh, only the best people are going to get that play mat. It's usually like, oh, the best person and then a random person. Sometimes I've seen that with stores, like they draw based off a person. And like if you've attended the most, then you get more chances in entry and you just draw out of a hat. And I've seen that with maybe the store votes, and they do the people's champion, so to speak, where they decide, you know what, Jeremy was really helpful this week. We should vote him. We're gonna vote him. Yeah, that would be good. He deserves it. He's done a lot for us. So LSS providing price support, and it's intended to give away that way. It's not that stores do that. It's usually LSS says, hey, here's this, and here's this. Do this with it. Mix it up. Give it to someone who's new. And the promos are usually pretty nice. So Armory events are usually the standard. Most people are going to attend Armory events. That's what's near your store.
I do know there's like a little bit of a process that stores have to go through to get approved to do it, because they don't want to just send the product to people who are not hosting events and not actually giving the players the stuff they're supposed to get through these events. So there is kind of a step process through it, because I know it took us a couple months to get approved and start getting the kits in full. And they sent us like some stuff during that period. They're like, oh, if you have people come in and play, like here's kind of some extra stuff we had. And then once we started doing the actual events, they're like, oh, we see that you're doing events and you've got the people coming. Here are the full kits for the full month, and you're going to be caught up to date with everything. So there is kind of a process. But it is very nice that they do that. And they give stores the opportunity to give to the players.
I know that where I am right now, there's multiple Armory events every day of the week, and in most states have upwards of like 20 that happen during the week, if not more. There is a lot of money being poured out on prize support from LSS, so That is one thing that from a lot of other games I've seen, I'm really grateful for, and just how they interact and give back to the community. So that is really good to see. But I would go to your store. If they don't play, you could probably start with Play Anywhere or go up to an on-demand. And then if you get people going, you can probably apply for an Armory and go from there. But next, we're going to talk about Skirmish, and it's Skirmish season right now. So, Kayla, do you want to tell us? Uh-oh. Ben's like, yep, I got my deck tuned.
Oh yeah, I'm ready to go.
Maybe should have mixed this up, but Kayla, do you want to tell us about Skirmish?
Yeah, Skirmish is it's your toppest. I'm gonna word this weird. It's the toppest low tier where it's still casual play, but the prize support is more sort of voluptuous in what they give. So basically, it's typically a higher pay into it. Some stores do like more stuff on top of it. Some just do the prize kits. But it's sort of just like something to get a little bit more used to competitive play. And its skirmishes are blitz only. You can only use blitz decks. So you have to really know who you're playing against and what you want to play as to combat the wide variety of young heroes that now exist in Flesh and Blood.
I always considered it kind of like an intramural sports kind of league where you're just kind of getting together with a bunch of people and have a little bit more organization for
Yeah.
the season, I guess is the right word. So that's how I always kind of pictured it in my head.
Gotcha. And so that's the base of our pyramid, essentially. I say pyramid, but it's like a layer cake. What would you call this? I mean, it really.
Yeah, it's
It's a ladder.
yeah.
I mean, it's
A
literally
ladder.
with multiple spots
Obelisk.
on the rung, and then 2 spots on the rest of the rungs.
Yeah, because the bottom is more. It's the casual end of it. It's the stuff that you can play and have fun, and you don't have to worry about.
Deck lists.
Deck list.
judges.
Yeah, like you don't have to worry about every single play action may or be correct or incorrect. Like you could be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I did that backwards. Can I redo that?" And a lot of people are like, "Sure, yeah, it's whatever. We're just having some fun." But once you go up to like the second rung, it's gonna change a bit.
Ooh, and that would be starting off with the Proquest. Does the tarnished fingers want to tell us about the Proquest?
So ProQuest is open entry. There is an option to earn an invite for Pro Tour or a PTI, Pro Tour invite. The ProQuest is where you're going to see people coming from out of town, out of state. You'll see people that are there just to be judges. There will almost always be either a virtual or paper deck list registration system. If it is classic or blitz, you'll still see that. Most of these are going to be classic constructed. From my understanding, ProQuest can exist in blitz, but is dominated heavily by classic constructed or CC.
And I think what's also cool about the Proquest is that there is a certain standard set by LSS that most stores will have, but they also can feel kind of different. I know one I attended, it was set up where you got a pack per win, as well as you could get a chance at the PTI. I know also it was set up one I got 4 packs, one I got 2 packs, but one was also $30 to enter. One was like $10 to enter, and that one only gave me a couple packs. All of those look differently, and they kind of cater to their demographic, and that's up to the store to shape that. But ProQuests you're starting to get into that. It's going to be mostly the CC meta. We do have ProQuest Season 2 coming up, so all as the thing Fingers Tarnished said. Road to Nationals. Ben, I'm going to throw this at you.
I mean, in my experience, it's more or less the same thing. I don't know if anyone has a stronger differential there, but the Road to Nationals and the ProQuest I played were more or less just the exact same thing. PTI, I mean, it might be different prize support, but PTI is usually the goal. Both I played were CC.
I think
So at this point, Road to National doesn't guarantee a PTI.
it doesn't.
It
Because you have to
doesn't?
go to
Okay.
the national championship, and that's where you can get a PTI.
Oh, okay. Okay,
That's not
fair
a
enough.
PTI, that's a championship.
Yeah,
invite.
it's because since they're on two sides, the Proquest goes towards the Pro Tour. The Road to National sends you to the national championship.
Okay, thank
And then
you.
do the world championship. So you're going up one side or the other.
Shows how much I know.
No, I'm just kidding.
They're smaller. Road to Nationals are smaller because they start at the regional level for this tier, and then so like you'll have like New England Road to Nationals, right? Those might be hosted in Boston or Northern New York or somewhere like that. And then that will be the Road to Nationals events. They'll have like maybe 2 or 3 for that entire region. And then those top contenders from those events will get the invite to go up to the next rung on the ladder, which is the national championship. They used to do PTIs because they didn't used to differentiate this when like the game was still very young. But now that they have these 2 different tiers, this is like your regional tournament. You know, if you think like quarterfinals, this would be your divisional.
Yeah, this is divisions, which lead into like
the
East-West
semis, and then the final.
Yeah,
and then the actual Super Bowl if you want to go football reference.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then it mostly is kind of fluid because this game is still pretty young, and as we see starting to go up on the next rung of the ladder, talking about the calling. Last year was the first calling, right?
In the United States. Last year was the first time they had them in the States.
As a company that's based out of New Zealand, it did not take birth in the United States.
No, plus the birth in New Zealand during COVID
stagnated it.
Coming to the United States to do tournaments wasn't really going to happen for a while.
Got there in the end.
Last year, they were incredibly safe with everything still, just to be 100% sure to keep all the players and judges and staff and everyone safe.
Yeah, even this year, they're still implementing pretty strict health compliance. Like, we won't get into that whole conversation, but like they're still very aware and still trying to err on the side of caution for these organized events where you might have 300-400 people or more in a room, and that's what this third tier is that 300 plus people, kind of like big, almost convention level event.
Yeah, definitely a convention level.
So going into these, as we talk about the calling and even the last run where we talked about the Proquest and the Road to Nationals, we should also bring up fabdb.net. And the reason I bring up the fabdb.net, they have the database there for card databases. There's also a spot to just make your deck and make sure, like, okay, I'm within the 80 cards. You can look at your deck from a different perspective. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, it has good analytics to help you assess your deck. Like, do I have too many blues? Am I over, on cards? And, okay, I have 11 equipment in a constructed deck. I don't need 11 equipment in a constructed deck. So, yeah, fabdb.net is good for that. You're right.
And I think the greatest thing about it is that you can actually make the deck list in a format that you can print it off and hand it to a judge and be like, all right, this is my deck, and you're done with it. You don't have to write it out.
I think they even have some like hand simulators where it'll randomly shuffle your cards that you've selected for your deck, pull you 4 so you can be like, oh, okay, this is what a hand would look like.
Yeah, the free access to the site will give you a hand, and then we're not sponsored, this is just if you decide to spend your money on it, you can get like a full opponent simulator too. And that I've not used it, but I'm sure you could look at YouTube videos or something to see who people who have posted up about it. Cause
next video, we get it. We test the computer.
I was to say, I always make mine by hand, so I don't really mess with it too much.
I'm a pencil paper type of person. I have a book that all my deck lists are written in, including like changes and stuff.
It's just all in my head, and it's a mess, but it works.
I keep spreadsheets.
This is actually something that's also important that we should say. In our first video on the how to play, we talked about using the Futility app as a life tracker. A lot of the higher up events, paper and pencil goes a long way, because when you can go back and
yeah.
be like, oh,
Oh,
you
yeah.
should be at this life because this, and the other person just has like dice, or if they can't justify why they're supposed to be there, it always goes to the person who justified it. They look back through the graveyard, they look at the damage done. Here's what you should be at. Here's what's happened, and we'll go here. So paper and pencil is better for that reason.
It's a great way to keep both you and your opponent honest.
There is a certain ease that's not to be taken lightly with futility, or using like a phone just to keep track of that, because it's so simple. Just like click it, be done, and move on.
Yeah.
But paper and pencil, yeah, hands down.
And
Yeah,
that's more going to matter in that, primarily starting at tier 3, you might have people who are going to be like, hey, why are you at this health at tier 2, especially at a road to national, more so than a ProQuest, I think. You'd still see people being like, why aren't you using pen and paper at ProQuest or road to nationals? But at the calling or at a actual national championship, a lot of judges will require a form of physical record for your health.
Yeah.
That usually is the tournament organizer's discretion or the head judge's discretion. There, I don't believe, is an official stance from LSS. But for you as the player, it's always better to just protect yourself from either ignorance or malicious action from your opponent. I mean, I don't want to go down that road too deep, but sometimes people really care about winning. And doing the little things to protect yourselves is worth it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I've messed up too, like on pen and paper. Like opponent says, like, okay, doing 5, and it's like, okay, well, you go 7 or 5 from 7. Okay, that's 2, and then you write it down, and you like don't write the other number. If you get another number, and like, well, okay, oh, wait a minute, hold on a second now. And you forget to write the first number or something. So stuff is always good to keep track of and just retrace. I attended I think 4 ProQuests this year, and each of them said they will always go with, this was an announcement right before anything started, they will always side with paper over a electronic or something that is not tracked.
Sure.
Right. If it's just a snapshot and doesn't have a historical record, like, no. I don't care what your snapshot says. I want the thing that recorded step by step and gives me a breakdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. My days of being a Magic judge have very plainly made that a thing. Like, it doesn't matter how flashy or nice the app is. Give me a piece of paper and a pencil. Show me what happened. Show me your graveyard, like Kayla said. How did these, damage coefficients work out? And then I'll make a ruling. Not just, oh, that screen says that? Sure.
Yeah.
That's no. Like,
it's more of you need just have your back more than anyone's, because if you are confident, that's gonna help you. Like if you've written everything down, a judge come over and someone's like, oh well, I did this, and it's like, oh, this is literally turn by turn, this is what happened, here's the cards I played, here's the damage they took on here, like this is the order of
ended with.
This is what happened. Judges are going to be more responsive to that, to responsibility, and that's just keeping yourself safe.
Yeah.
And it also does give you a better feeling and understanding of the flow of the game, and gives you a little bit more awareness, honestly. Like, looking at your graveyard is something that's important as a player. This isn't the point of this video, but these are the kind of tips that you're going to want to know about going into this tier 3 of this organized play ladder. Is like, know about your deck, know what's left in it, make sure you have your health tracked. Like, these little things that you kind of don't think about until you're sitting down across from an opponent at a tournament, and then you're like, oh man, it'd be really good if blank.
Yeah. Definitely. All good points. And I'm sorry that I detracted from tier 3 a little bit, and we'll go back into that. And we talked a little bit about the calling, but what's interesting here about the calling is I don't think there's a set expectation on the calling yet, because last year was sealed in the U.S., or at least the one I attended. There was a constructed one first, right?
The Vegas one was constructed, I believe.
And then they had the battle hardened, but technically not the calling actual, but the calling actual was, or sorry, I'm talking this year. last year they just had a Pro Tour, Proquest.
Mm-hmm.
No, they had a Proquest on the second day, right? I'm trying to remember.
Was it
I
Proquest or
think
Battle Hardened? I don't remember.
It
think
was
it's-
Battle Hardened didn't start till this year. Last year it
Okay.
was calling main event, and then if you didn't make it to the top 64 in the main event, the ProQuest was the next day, so you could then partake in the ProQuest if you didn't make the main event. So they staggered it that way. So day one is just the calling main event and probably like some side events, just happening drafts and whatnot.
On-demand events.
On demand. Wow.
Tier 1.
Huh. But if you didn't make the cut towards the end of the evening, then you would know if you need to sign your name into the ProQuest or if you just wanted to hang out and do some other events.
Battle Hardened was brand new this year,
Yep.
and I believe it just falls under a Tier 1 on-demand event, but it has a, like, XP multiplier that we can talk
Yeah.
about later.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. We'll just do that at the end. National Championship. Is anyone
Pretty
familiar?
on the nose. Like, it is... Everything is led up to this point. You are in your country of home and playing against players who are residents of that same country.
Yep.
For a spot to represent your country in the World Championship.
Yep.
Which these both only happen once a year.
Yes.
So there is one national championship for your country for the countries that host them, and then there are feeds into one, obviously only one world, so one World Championship event.
And the World Championship would be one person from each national.
I believe it's more than.
I think there's a few more, yeah.
Gotcha.
I think you as the winner become the national champion, but I believe it's 2 or 4 from the national championship, top 1 and 2, or maybe top 1 through 4.
It could be top 4 because they always stress top 4 cuts.
Yeah. So I think the top 4 are the ones that will be representing that country in the Worlds, and that gives them a nice, healthy player base. Because if it's only top 2, at this point there's maybe, I'm just going to say generously, 18 countries that could probably boast enough playership to host a national level team.
Yeah.
So that's
There's a lot of
36
countries
players.
that still don't have access to cards, unfortunately, in like their languages.
Right. So that'd
So
be 36 players at the World Championship. Which, I mean, if you did every event staggered and yada yada, like 36 is a lot, but from a tournament perspective, no. Like, I'd say probably the top 4, and then you'd have 72, and that's what you want.
Solid
That gives
tournament.
them- Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good number. It's
Good-
not too
good chunk.
crazy. Because that's 36 matches round 1, single elimination, then 18, then, yeah, so on and so forth. But-
Oh, sorry. go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, but the national championship is really on the nose. You're going to have a deck list. You're going to have a judge. There's probably going to be a judge at every match.
it's probably going to be live streamed
Yeah, and that
to
is
some
something
capacity.
that if you go to any event at tier 2 or higher, and you are somebody who does not like being on screen, make sure that you check the tournament rules and regulations from the person or organization hosting it. Many of them now say that, blah, 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 by signing up and registering, you agree to just use your likeness and so on and so forth. There have been cases where I've had to go to a judge and be like, hey, I can't. This is a long time ago, but just be aware as a attendee the rules of the tournament that don't affect cardboard, because maybe they will affect you personally. Like no outside food or drinks, no bags, so on and so forth. Like, as the organizer, they can put rules in place. It's up to you as the attendee to read, understand, and follow the rules, or face punitive action in the game, or even disqualification from the event, which would be a huge bummer.
Yeah, in tier
So-
2 and up, you have to start really going slow and going through everything. Like, don't shuffle your equipment in your deck. Don't draw an extra card. There's a lot of things that can go into that. And like, what was the person who drew the extra card? Do you remember his penalty?
His
Oh,
Was it like play a card down for like 2 turns or something?
No, I think
it was IP penalty. I remember, and intellect penalty, but I don't
It
remember the
was-
exact details.
Didn't he have to?
Like I thought it was the opponent gets to choose a card at random. It goes to the bottom of your deck, and you don't get to draw a card. But I could be wrong.
I think they then also went
There's been
down.
multiple instances, so
Yeah,
So when they finished, they drew up one shy.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's how it went.
Like the
But-
punitive action goes pretty serious against
Yeah.
you. So.
And also, judges will keep track of penalties, and if there is a player who has accrued a large number of penalties, they may just dismiss them from the tournament. The head judge has that right to be like, this person has had a penalty almost every match.
Especially if it's the same thing.
Right. Or even if it's just disruptive to the flow of play kind of penalties. The ones that take like 6 minutes to figure out, and then they have to do an extension each round, and like it just slows down and makes the tournament less fun for everybody because there's one player. So not to scare anybody, but just be deliberate. Like if you're going to shuffle your cards, shuffle them in a way that you're holding them carefully when you put them down. Like you'll probably be nervous, so take your time with everything. 55 minutes for constructed play is pretty long, and honestly, the way Blitz is now, you don't need 30 minutes.
Blitz is like, here's 10. You're like, that's too much.
That's still too much.
That's double the
Super
time
aggro
I
right
need.
now.
Unless you're playing Oldham.
Even Blitz.
Even Oldham's getting aggro.
Especially in Blitz, Oldham's can aggro.
The one that won, what was it, a battle hardened?
It was the... it was in Leeds. You're right, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Battle
played
Hardened.
Blitz Oldham this past weekend at Skirmish, and it went to time.
Well,
He
'cause
had
he's
block
probably-
and everything.
He's
Yeah.
probably just,
Classic fatigue Oldham. There's nothing wrong with that playstyle, but there is an aggro Oldham, and it is mean.
Yeah, I just feel like at this point, fatigue just doesn't have room where the game has a time limit.
There's just so much damage being thrown. Fatigue is rough to play.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about Pro Tour. I'm just going to say this because I thought this was crazy. So I think some guy, there was definitely an action taken against him. I can't remember specifically what it was. I want to say DQ'd, but I don't, or from that round. I think he took a loss for that round, but I could be wrong. And that was, he was putting his pitch in upside down. And supposedly,
That was a DQ.
it was a DQ. That was supposedly, like, you can see the tops of your sleeves. Like, I was trying to, I flip them around, like, man, I still can't tell, like,
Well, if they're double sleeved, there's sort of that little like
Oh,
pillowy
yeah.
effect. I know the Tarnished Fingers has all of his decks double sleeved, and it's so weird sitting down playing Blitz with him, and your deck's like this big, and his deck's like this big, and you're like, there's something wrong here, and it's just the sleeves. But yeah, I mean, someone who's like, oh, this is a really good card, I need to know when it's coming back, and they just put it in the opposite way to where the open's facing them, you're going to notice that.
okay.
Or if you're playing a deck that gets shuffled a lot, and then when you shuffle, you're like, that
Oh, that's
Mugenshi
there it
release that I pitched
Oh,
right
yeah.
there, it's back. It's the second card from the top of my deck. Like,
yeah, just stuff like that is not okay.
the little bins on the top right of all your cards. Don't do that. Please don't do that.
That happened by accident because I think I shuffle too hard.
Keela does on purpose. Let's be. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, if they're all bent, then they're all marked, which means none of them are marked.
Exactly.
Oh, crap. Exactly. Yeah. Never mind.
If it's uniform, they're no longer marked.
Unlike the guy who was using 2 different color sapphire sleeves from different years and was like, these are clearly the same. But that was an honest mistake.
Look, I've been using Dragon Shield sleeves for a long time. The fact that I have the same color from literally almost 5 years apart, I expected them to be the same.
They
were
weren't.
definitely not. And when I sleeved up my deck, luck would have had it that all of my attack reactions went into the older sleeves. All of them.
So I'm partially colorblind, and I have some cheap black sleeves when I started playing Star Wars Destiny, and I went to some place and I was like, oh, I'll just buy a box of sleeves, and I bought some Dragon Shield ones that were also black, and obviously the Dragon Shields are nicer than the other ones. I can't tell the difference. Like, I look at them, I just see black. Like, not a.
Honestly, I cannot tell the difference between jet and black in Dragon Shields. Those are the only two. Like, I see color very well. And that's two sleeves. If you put them in front of me, I probably could not distinguish the two.
Jet
Never
has
seen them right next to each other.
And
Yeah.
black has more of just a matte.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's a way, but it's like when you put them in front of me, immediately I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know.
I'm sorry.
As-
Pro Tour.
as a
We'll
joke.
round it out to the Pro Tour.
Pro Tour.
Who wants to finish this out?
You got a PTI. Welcome.
You do
That's
have
about
to
it.
get an invitation to go to that.
Yeah.
Got an invite.
Invite only.
It is organized by LSS.
It is, and I do believe you can get an invite just by the amount of experience you have via 90 days.
I think it's top
with-
100 people.
Yep, the top 100 people every 90 days will get a PTI.
If they don't already have one.
If they don't already have one, yeah. You can't double up invites. And you can't give away invites. But if you play in a lot of events, like if you played in all 4 callings and you went crazy well, but you just didn't make the top 8, chances are your XP is going to be pretty high, and they're going to notice that, and they're going to be like, hey, here's a PTI for you. We noticed that you did very well, you just didn't make it all the way to the end and already get an invite.
You finished 6-3 every time that
Yeah.
we did a 9-round tournament, which wasn't good enough for the cut, but
Yeah.
you went 6-3.
Yeah. You were 9th when we cut to top 8. That
3 times.
sucks! But here's a PTI, because you clearly were playing very well.
What's also
And that-
neat is PTIs go to, if the person who's in first, you're like, why are you here? If they have it, it goes to the next person. And on down the chain.
Oh,
so
yeah.
far.
And that does feed into the XP system, like we were
Yep.
talking about. So some events, I'm just going to jump right into XP unless you want to talk about anything else.
That is great.
So XP is tracked through your official FabTCG GEM ID,
GEM.
GEM, Golf Echo Mike. The XP system is how FabTCG.com, the website itself, tracks your performance at sanctioned events. So everything above on demand.
Yep.
So Armory, Skirmish, and then up all tracks XP from it, whether it's just the standard 1 XP for some sort of on-demand event at a calling but you're not playing in the main, or an Armory event, which sometimes will be 1 or even 3 XP in certain cases, and then skirmishes and above often have a modifier, and that's where that who are the top 100 people in 90 days, the people who are playing at tournaments are going to be higher in that list just because every win counts for more.
Yeah.
So somebody who plays at 7 Armory events a week, they might cash in, 21 XP that week if they win
was gonna say-
3 rounds every time.
The way the points work is that every win is 3 points, and draws and losses are 0. So if you...
In a 3x multiplier.
Armories are times 1. No, I think skirmishes and higher times 3.
Hold on. I can Armory event is a 3.0.
Armories are 3.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
Because, again, it's got LSS price support.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. Okay. Well, then I will take back what I say. I run the events, jeez, and I don't even know what the...
On demand is a 1. It has
So
no multiplier, no modifier.
Cut that out so I don't seem like a blubbering fool.
Keep it in.
But for points, every win is 3, and then if you win 3 rounds at your weekly Armory event, that's 9 points. And then if you do it 4 times a month,
That's 36.
that's 36 points. And then if you did that 3 times a week times 4 times a month,
That's
I don't even remember what you said, let alone math.
I was losing the math.
it's 30. It's 36 times 3. It's 108.
108. That's 108 experience a month.
If you play
108 times 3 for 90 days.
324.
324 probably will not get you a PTI, but you understand now the scaling.
Also, it's also the time of year will matter. So if
Yes.
it's Pro Tour or Proquest or Road to Nationals, all these events that have high multipliers, you're probably going to need to play at them if you do
Yep.
want to be in that top 100.
Yep.
Because some of them offer, the calling, for example, was 6 times multiplier.
Yep.
So the pittance of wins that I got at the calling were each worth 6. So that, I guess, helps my ego.
But it was
a bit.
worth 18 points per win.
The calling actually, it was worth 3. It was an Armory event. Battle Hardened was 6.
That's what it was. I did better in the Battle Hardened anyway. Great!
Yeah.
Great! Feels great.
Um,
I hope that person that I gave a free buy to at the end appreciated the 3x XP then at the calling.
so,
I'm sure they weren't complaining.
yeah, just going off what everybody said, I would, if you haven't done so already, go to the fabtcg.com website, and right in the top you can see this login button. Where's my mouse? Okay. Yeah, you can just go to there, type in your email, set up an account. It is case sensitive, so on my phone, the password is always case sensitive, but the username is case sensitive. On my phone, I always have my email, but it capitalizes the first part of my email, and I always go in there like, man, I can never log into this, and lo and behold, that was the issue.
Easiest thing to do, if you don't have your number memorized, just screenshot it, and then if anyone's ever like, what's your gym ID? You can do it that way. But as someone who's run events before, gym's organization thing, if you type in a person's name, typically they'll pop up unless they have a very common name. And then in that case, you need to know your number. That way you could say, oh, there's 2 Michaels. One starts with 235 and one starts with 153. Which one are you? And you're like, I'm 153.
Yeah. Thankfully, you have a pretty common name.
There is no other person with
does
the
go
name.
back to, yes, female player base is growing, but it is still small.
Yeah, having two first names, the first and last name. So you put Kayla.
Miss John C.
There's not many females named
Miss John C.
Flesh and Blood at the moment. Congratulations, you're the only one.
And now everyone can look her up online, find her on Facebook, and stalk her. All right.
I know, if your name was like
Chris Smith.
Chris Smith, yeah, there's probably 8 Chris Smiths. Smith is a very common last name.
I
so
actually
is
know a Chris
Johnson.
Smith.
I'm sure you do. It's that common.
Anyway, so yeah, so as Kayla was saying, it's really easy to look people up on there unless you have a common name.
I'm gonna go in the comments of this video and I'm gonna say, here's my Twitter and my Instagram. Follow me.
And my OnlyFans and my
It's honestly just pictures of Mochi.
It would be just pictures of my cat. Because he has a lot of medical bills that I have to pay for.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So yeah, that wraps up our OP conversation.
No, we haven't talked about World Championships.
No, we national to world.
I mean, yeah, it's really hard to talk about the top 2 because it's like that's just it.
It
like-
is the thing. It's organized by LSS.
It is the highest. It is the highest ranked tournament you can get into. If you were there, you are probably going to be streamed. You are going to have interviews. You're going to have to make statements about your play. Like, that's just the level of tournament it is. Pro Tour is more invite-based, whereas World Championship, you have to work your way there.
There will be, like, esports hosts and correspondents and stuff there, because tabletop game is still kind of falling under the sister umbrella of esports, even though it's not electronic at all.
You can stream it, though.
But it's streamed.
But it's also like if you went to a World Championship and did kind of well, you could also get sponsored by different brands, being like, hey,
Dragon Shield wants to sponsor you.
Dragon Shield, if you sport their stuff, and we'll pay for your trip, and you just wear this stuff and shuffle your cards in Dragon Shields, and I'll be like, cool, give me pink diamond.
Dragon Shield, you've heard that Kayla wants
art.
Pink Diamond. Make it happen.
Holiday art every year. Give me the spoopy Dragon Shield art.
I don't know, I'm a big fan of, like, just the silvers and coppers and golds. Like, I like that.
I just don't like how they feel when they're not the matte. Because they
Yeah,
just get
they have
so
to be matte.
sticky.
Dragon Shield's what?
It's sponsor me.
We're
Yes.
just the whole team.
All of us.
I'll give you my
Sure, why not?
If when they do this fab with Dragon Shield collaboration, it would actually be handy to have sleeves that are tokens, because then you could just like, oh, I don't have a frostbite. Oh wait, bam!
Ooh.
There's an empty sleeve.
That would be nice, actually.
Yeah, it
Problem with, and this goes back to like the person.
I'm just gonna say this Dragon Shield sponsor this video. And we will come up with more good ideas.
I really like art sleeves, but in competitive play, people get really testy over art sleeves, because if your sleeve just happened to got scratched while you were putting it in your deck box, someone's gonna be like, "You're marking your cards. That art's not like that art. That one's this way, and this one's like lighter." And it's, I think getting
5 years difference of sapphire.
I would just stick to just colors in any type of really big pro tournament, simply so you don't have that confusion. But that's just me.
I had some older sleeves, and I got dirt on one of them, and I was just like, every time I was like, oh, I guess that's a card. But I never went to a tournament with that. And that was usually just playing with friends or casual at the casual level, and that was literally in a kitchen table. It was just something like, I didn't think about it at the time, but someone could be doing that.
86 over here marking cards.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Sure.
Big cheating.
Big cheese.
All right. Well, we talked about all these fun things you can go play at. I think the best thing to do, now that we've talked about it, is actually go play some of them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
Find an event near you.
Kind of like we talked about with the calling video. Like, just if you can afford it or if it's within your schedule, like, again, don't disrupt your own life just to play at one of these events. But
Yep.
if it works, go. It's a good time.
It's an
Community.
experience.
quit your job. Just
And-
go to events.
Become a hermit.
That's what
Live off
you
the
did.
land.
86. You were like, I'm not going to work. I'm going to go to events.
Van down by the river.
You wish. That would still cost so much money.
The insurance.
It's actually cheaper to own a house now than a van down by the. No, just kidding.
But if you're like, oh, I can't afford to go to this event, find your Armory Events. Find your on-demands. If your LGS doesn't do anything, go to them and ask them. Be like, hey, have you thought about doing this? Like, just reach out, try, and if you can't, like, there are Discord servers, but I am not tech savvy, so I don't understand webcam, so I prefer to just bug the people who come to the store, and I'm like, play this game. I actually ran into a friend yesterday who came in to play Digimon, and he said, yeah, no one really plays Magic anymore, and I was like, play Flesh and Blood. It's fun. Come Thursday at 6. I'll teach you how to play. And he might be coming Thursday at 6 now.
Anything you guys want to say? Final wrap-up points about attending organized play events, or where to go, or what to do with any of this information?
Go, have fun. If it's your first time, don't stress over win-loss. Just go and have fun. That's all it is. Just go have fun. Don't stress yourself out.
Always priority number one.
Yeah.
Unless you're a completionist and you care about XP. But thankfully, it's not like Elden Ring. You don't lose all your XP when you die.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
You just
actually,
lose
maybe
everything else when you die.
if you physically
Now
die.
I want to make a card game that if you lose, all of your experience is wiped. But if you beat that person,
You get
all of it.
This is like Flesh and Blood's version of Anti. This is awesome.
All right.
Yeah.
So, thanks for watching. This is Kayla, Ben, Fingers, Tarnished, something or other, and myself, the 86. And we'll put the Discord down below. Come play some webcam games with us. Show up at the store, play with us. Find us online and do TTS. Doesn't matter. Just go play some games. Have fun.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Have fun. Also, reunite the great runes and become the Underlord.
You have taken steps. You've
What is
gotten
this?
2 of the great runes.